Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition to Henry Parker Presents the CD Storm Show. We are on location here at Muhammad's Mosque, number 11, in beautiful uptown Grove Hall, Mass. And our special guest is student minister Randy Muhammad. I want to welcome here to the show. Brother, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure for me to be on your show, this award-winning show with the super producer Henry Parker.
Yes.
I hear is making all kind of
the man behind the
waves
scenes.
and getting awards and recognition for the great work that he and you are doing. So it is an honor for me to be here to speak to your listening and viewing audience.
Thank you, thank you. I want to get right into it, mister, because I know your time is very valuable, and I know you have another appointment to make. But for the viewing audience and the people that know you but don't really know of you in your past, I just want them to know, basically, how did you become interested in the Nation of Islam, and how old was you at the time?
Yes, sir. Well, all praise is due to Allah. I've been in the Nation of Islam now for 30 years. 30 years. I came into the Nation of Islam as a young man. I was a teenager, 17, at that time, I was involved in the streets. Growing up in the hood. Dealing with what young people deal with. I was very much involved in that, but also I was involved in the hip hop culture. I grew up in the era of I'm a hip hop baby, if you will, in the generation of hip hop and the entire culture, which includes breakdancing, graffiti, rapping, and DJing. And so I grew up in that era. And so what drew me to the Nation of Islam back then, unlike now, hip hop was conscious.
Yes.
And many of the artists, it was really pro-black. It was about sharing knowledge. The brothers were calling themselves kings and gods, and the sisters were queens and goddesses, and it was about disseminating information about our history. We had rap groups rappers such as KRS-One, which is an acronym for Knowledge Reigns Supreme over nearly everyone. We had rap groups such as Poor Righteous Teachers, but I was drawn to Public Enemy. When they came on board, and I was drawn to all of them.
I know you kind of fancy Nas there too. You like
oh yes, Nas. Well, Nas came a little bit later.
Yeah.
But absolutely Nas. He came a little bit later, but back in the late '80s. At that time when I came into the Nation of Islam, it was those groups, but there was plenty of groups, that had a positive message. Poor Righteous Teachers and Rakim Allah and Brand Nubian and others. But it was Public Enemy that I was listening to, and it was the first time I heard the name Farrakhan. Chuck had a line where he said, "I'm a follower of Farrakhan. Don't tell me that you understand until you hear the man." And it was something about Chuck D, his cadence. He had a very clever rhyme style, very complicated rhyme style that you really had to pay attention to. He almost spoke in metaphors and riddles. And so in parables, I would sit and listen and try to decipher what he was talking about. And his message was on a whole nother level. So I was always curious as to what is he talking about. And he kept talking about Farrakhan. He said Farrakhan's a prophet, and I think you ought to listen to what he can say to you. And I'm like, well, who is this Farrakhan? And so that started my inquisitiveness into who the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is. And my brother actually, a friend of his, had an audio tape of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so my brother came, he said, "Look, I got a tape, this is Farrakhan." And I remember it was one evening, late evening, we came in from hanging out, whatever it was, and we popped the tape in. And and we sat there and listened to it, and it was weird because I was so drawn to it, and I was never the go to church type, to listen to preachers type, and none of that, but I was drawn to the minister. He was saying things that I've never heard before. I knew immediately that this was a man that loved his people, and that he was speaking in defense of his people.
Yes.
And so, as I listened to the Honorable Minister, we listened to the whole tape, and then flipped it and put it on the other side, and just sat there, and the time just flew by. And then when that side finished, we was angry because it was really 2 tapes, but we only had 1 tape.
Yeah, yeah.
So I missed some of the lecture,
Yeah.
and I wanted more. And so that started me on a journey of listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and you know, really it was love at first sight. It was something that I've been always wanting to hear all my life, you know, as I began to, I was so intrigued with what the minister was saying, and I would ask people, man, do you know about Minister Farrakhan? And my initial response from a lot of people was, you know, and some people that were close, you know, and they would say, well, no, well, he's a racist. And, you know, that started me on the journey of being a defender of the minister. I was like,
Yes.
wait a minute, I didn't get that. Why did you say that?
Yes.
You know, and so he was saying things that I've never heard before. And it made me go on a journey to inquire about what he was saying. I never heard the word Islam. I never knew about Muslims. I never knew there was such a religion called Islam, and I never knew nothing about Muslims. I never knew, you know, a lot of the things that he was talking about. And so it set me on a journey to start to study. And then as I started to study about Islam, I also agreed with what I was studying. It made sense. And I fell in love with the religion. And so that started my journey in coming into the Nation of Islam. And as I learned...
I hear you talk so affectionately about Minister Don Muhammad.
Yeah.
And how about him being your mentor.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little something about
Well,
love for him.
Well, absolutely. Well, you know, so I'll finish what I was saying,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes,
then segue, because it goes together. As I was listening to the minister, and I found out that he was on a radio station, Minister Farrakhan. So I would tune in every Sunday morning. I would tune in
Yes,
to
sir.
WILD.
Yes, sir.
And listen
Yes, sir.
to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah.
And you know, afterwards, you know, that's when Minister Don would come in, and he would give a few minutes of commentary on local issues, current events. And so, but one Sunday I was listening, and I heard it announced that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was in town, and that he was going to be speaking at Muhammad Mosque number 11. And I said, oh, I gotta go. You know, and so, you know, I came to the mosque. I dragged one of my friends with me to come up, you know,
Yeah.
because back then I was in the gang era, and we was involved, and we was leaving our little neighborhood and coming into another. So, you know, we never moved alone. We moved,
Sure.
you know, a certain way. So I had to drag my friend there. We didn't really want to go, but we went, and I heard the minister, and I loved everything about the mosque. I loved the energy. I loved the brotherhood. I love, you know, looking at clean-cut, sharp, disciplined black men, you know, who were not, you know, soft, and you know, they were militant, you know, and that was different from my perception of religious people or church, you know, and so I loved it. And so, you know, afterwards, you know, I left, and I was thinking to myself, you know, I wonder if the mosque is that good when Minister Farrakhan is not there. And so I decided to come back the next week. And that's when I came back the next week, and there was one of the assistant ministers that was teaching.
That was right here in Muhammad's Mosque number 11?
Right here in Muhammad Mosque number 11. And then so one of the other assistant ministers was opened up. I remember Brother Archie, he went up there.
Oh, yeah, Brother Archie.
Brother Archie,
Yeah.
you know Brother Archie.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful, dark-skinned, handsome,
Yes.
bald-head brother, real strong.
Met him in Deer Island in the early 80s.
Fiery brother.
Yes.
And he was up there, and he was opening, but then he brought Minister Don on. And, you know, Minister Don, he would start with a very low tone when he would start his lecture, but, you know, a few minutes in when he warm up, and you know, he brought that fire out.
Like you.
Well, that's where I got it from.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I was blessed to, so when I left that day, I was convinced, you know. I mean, I was convinced after hearing the minister.
Yes.
But, you know, for me, coming back to the mosque and the environment and meeting Minister Don and seeing him, I knew that this was the place that I wanted to be.
Yes. So you feel right at home, and you have a newfound position in the Nation of Islam, because are you the lead, the head minister here, student minister? Do you lead the mosque?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. All praises due to Allah.
Yes,
I
sir.
have been given the assignment
Yes, sir.
to
Yes,
be the minister over
Absolutely.
Muhammad Mosque
So
number
great.
11.
That is great.
Yes, it is a tremendous honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be able to serve our community, to serve a mosque that really nurtured me,
Yes, sir.
that reared me. I came in as a young man, as a teenager. You know, the Nation of Islam and Muhammad Mosque number 11 made me the man that I'm becoming.
Yes, sir.
And so to be able to serve and to help others in that journey, it is a tremendous honor to be a minister of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the man of God on scene today.
Yes, sir.
It is a great honor and a great responsibility that I take very seriously and very
Yes, sir.
humbly,
Yes.
and seek Allah's guidance and Allah's help as we navigate this great job. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was told by his teacher that he was given the hardest job that any man has been given.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those of us that come on board to be his helpers,
Yes.
we are helping in the hardest job that there ever has been. And that job is to resurrect the people who are mentally and spiritually dead.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, for those who do not know, I have history with this brother. He found me in the belly of the beast in the prisons and came in by the help of Allah, rescued me from my gang banging and womanizing and my drugs and alcohol. Now you see me suited, booted, Farrakhan recruited. I just want to ask my brother, are you still going to the prisons? You're in Gardner pretty much now, are you?
Yes, well, you know, I actually serve at this time, and I have been serving for the last 12 years as the only Nation of Islam chaplain in the Department of Correction, in the Massachusetts Department of Corrections. So I serve in pretty much all of the state prisons, the major state prisons. I go in wherever our people are, particularly that request the Nation of Islam. I go, but I visit regularly Norfolk, Concord, Shirley Medium, Susan Baranowski, which is the maximum security prison, NCI Gardner, OCCC in Bridgewater, also Cedar Junction in Walpole, Old Walpole. So I visit those prisons on a regular basis. The Mass Treatment Center, and some of the minimums, or Bridgewater minimum. And on occasions, if I'm requested, I'll travel to other prisoners, because I am the only Nation of Islam chaplain officially working with the DOC.
That is marvelous. Now, Minister, I was listening to one of your lectures a couple of weeks ago, and you was talking about the importance of Black history. And how important, and it was a dynamite lecture, and if you didn't miss it, you missed a great informative lecture. Can you just, what is the importance of Black history, and what do we need to understand about that? Just briefly, sir.
Yes, I'll try to be brief. That's a very deep one, you know, but I'll be brief. But Black history is the of utmost importance, because without Black history, there will be no history. You know, now, you know, education is very important. And so we send our children to school to become educated. Every year in school, they're taught history. History is part of the curriculum. But unfortunately, Black history is really not taught in the curriculum in the public school system. Black history is usually relegated to the shortest month of the year, which is February. And even then, you know, you really cannot cover Black history in 28 days. 30 days, you know, because Black history is so extensive, because without Black history, there'll be no history, right? Because we're taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and archaeologists, geneticists, and anthropologists, and all of the sciences will bear witness to us that the Black man and woman are the original people of the planet Earth.
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that not only are we the original people, but we are the fathers and mothers of civilization. You know, so Black people, contrary to what we're taught in this society, you know, and so during Black History Month, they act and treat it as if though our history started from slavery. But we had a history that was so expansive and extensive prior to slavery, where we ruled the world, where we headed empires, where we had an advanced civilization, a civilization more advanced than this current civilization that we live in today. Our people had a science and a technology that is greater than the science and technology of this world.
Listen up.
So one of the evidence that bear witness to this is when you look at Egypt and you look at those pyramids that our people put up there, the scientists of today, they still can't figure out how did they build those pyramids. They call it one of the greatest wonders of the world because they're still wondering how we did it.
Yes, sir.
And they would even go as far as to say that aliens came from outer space
I've heard that.
and built those
I've heard that.
pyramids rather than to give credit to the genius of the black man, even though right next to the pyramids you'll find the Sphinx, which is the body of a lion, and the lion symbolizes the king of the jungle. And so, but this lion is a lion that has the face of a black man on it, symbolizing that the king of this tomb in Egypt, the builders of the pyramids, was and is in fact the black man and woman that are all over the planet Earth. And I'll say this, that it wasn't just Egypt. You'll find all over the planet Earth, you'll find the ancient ruins where you'll find these great monolithic structures. You'll find pyramids in Central America, pyramids in South America, pyramids throughout Asia, pyramids even here in North America. And all of these pyramids, great monolithic structures, these are pyramids that are constructed with stone that has been hewn out of mountains, some of them weighing as much as 100 tons.
Wow.
So the scientists of today can't even wrap their mind around how do you hew out a stone weighing 100 tons from a mountain? How do you carry that? How do you transport it? How do you place it mathematically precise as those pyramids are built? It was a technology and a science that's beyond this world. When you look at the Mayan civilization, you know, there was a lot of talk around 2012 about the end times because they said that the Mayan calendar predicted the end of the world on 2012. You remember hearing that?
Yes, I did. Yes, sir.
Well, the Mayan calendar, these people, which were black people, built a calendar that tracked, right, the stars and the motion of the solar system, not like our calendar, which tracks it on a 12-month basis, right?
Yes.
12 months, so we can calculate a year. The Mayans built a calendar that tracked the celestial body for 25,000 years.
Goodness gracious alive.
How do they even come up with a thought like that? This is the science and the knowledge and the technology that we don't know. And I'll close this point by saying this. When you look at the Mayans and the Incas and the Aztecs and all of those native people that had an advanced civilization, the father of all of them were the Olmec. And if you go and study the Olmec people, you'll find down there in Mexico, in Central and South America, you'll find the old, next to the pyramids, you'll find the head, which is the figure of a black man with a broad, thick nose and a broad, thick lips, making no mistake that who was the builder of this civilization. So the father of the original indigenous people, even on this hemisphere, is in fact the original black man. So now I'm closing this point and saying the importance of black history. If you don't know this about yourself, if you don't know the greatness of yourself, our people want our young people. You know, one of the greatest problems we had, I feel, when we talk about the gang violence, you know, I fell victim. I was in a gang. I was in the streets before I came to the Nation of Islam. But it's because I didn't know who I was. See, you would never call yourself the N-word. You would never want to be a gangster, a thug, a pimp, or a player if you know the greatness of your people. You would never settle for less. And so our people need to be taught the knowledge of themselves, their true history, which will give them a greater sense of self-esteem, and it will cause them to level up and to develop themselves and to not settle for less. And so, it's very important, and not only for our people to know our history, but all people need to know. Because, they believe, even white Americans believe the mythology and the lie.
Yes.
And the lie that America was built on is the lie of white supremacy,
Yes.
and the lie of black inferiority.
Yes.
Our history would change all of that.
Yes. Yes, that was powerful. I want to ask you, Minister, I've seen a few pictures of you with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. How does it feel to be standing in front of that marvelous man?
Oh man, all praises is due to Allah. It's really humbling.
Yes, sir.
It's awe-inspiring. Someone that you look at that has meant so much, that has literally saved your life, that has saved thousands of people's lives. A man who is so bold, who's always at the forefront of the struggle of our people, defending our people against the accusations and the attacks of our oppressor. Whenever our people are being dragged through the mud, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a man that has always come to the aid and the defense of black people. He stood up for Jesse Jackson.
Yes.
When he was running to be the president.
Yes, he did.
And members of the Jewish community
Yes, he did.
wanted to ruin Jesse. And so the Secret Service refused to give the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan any security detail. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan commissioned the men of the Nation of Islam, the FOI, to provide security for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, a Christian. But the minister, they said, oh, you're a Christian, I'm not going to defend him. No, he defended him.
Yes.
And to the point where Reverend Jackson's enemies became Minister Farrakhan's enemies.
Yes.
Right? So the current controversy between Farrakhan and and certain members of the Jewish community go all the way back to that conflict that initiated with him defending the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Yes.
But he defended Marion Barry, when he got caught
sure did,
in an
yes.
unfortunate
I remember
circumstance. And
that.
this will, most people would turn their back on someone like Marion Barry
Right.
when they get caught in an uncompromising position.
Don't want to associate.
But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the kind of man that he looks past our faults and he sees our need.
Yes.
He's a redeemer of our people. And so he's always found, defending us and beckoning us to be better.
Yes.
And so, I've seen the minister stand, before crowds, at the Million Man March, 1.8 million black men that came out to this man's call.
It's almost 2 million.
And so I've seen men in the belly of the beast, in the hardest prisons that I may go to. I found men in segregation, in the Department Disciplinary Unit, DDU. DDU is jail for brothers that are in jail.
Woo!
So you in jail and you get into a situation, you pick up another case in jail, they send you to the DDU. Right?
Jail
So
within a jail.
It's a jail. It literally is a jail within a jail. It's a jail that was built in the back of NCI Cedar Junction, Walpole. But I've been there. I go there.
Yes, sir.
And I see some of the men that are considered the most incorrigible of men, the so-called hardest of the hard.
Yes.
But I see how the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been transformative, and even some that are considered incorrigible, who his words penetrate their soul, and they begin to transform their lives, and some of them come out and have become great men, assets to their community. So here's a man that has affected so many people that I know personally.
Yes.
So to be in his presence is just so humbling. I just want to convey to him how honored I am, how proud I am of him,
I hope
and
he's
the
listening.
debt of gratitude that I owe him for his work.
Yes,
And there's really nothing you can say, but just be humbled and just say thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you, and how can I serve and how can I help? Because when you have a man that has worked so hard,
Yes.
over 60 years, at the forefront of the struggle of our people,
Yes, sir.
right? When you have a man that has worked so hard, so long, all you want to do is help a man like that. So it was the greatest honor that I have anytime I have an opportunity to be in the presence of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes. A question, Minister. You say the most incorrigible of criminals have turned their life around.
Absolutely.
Can do you so you will accept any brother who wants to walk in the doors of Muhammad's Mosque number 11 and greet him with the same warm greeting that you greet a fellow FOI, and you accept them wholeheartedly?
Absolutely.
Is there any conditions that you? Is there any conditions?
No, we're taught in the Nation of Islam. We love our people, and that's one thing that we must know is that the black man and woman of America has been really friendless. No one really loves us. We hardly love ourselves, right? And so this is why we see, people think and there's the thought that black is ugly or derogatory or less than, and so a lot of our women want to get blonde hair and go and change their eye colors and make them blue or make them green or make them hazel. And we say, oh, it looks pretty. It's pretty. We want to look like everybody else. Because we have been the standards of beauty of our oppressor has been imposed on us, right? And so, but in the Nation of Islam, we're taught the true nature and identity of our people. So that's one of the things that's instilled in us is a deep love of our people because we know who we are. We know that we are the people of God. We know that we are the original people, and black is, in fact, beautiful. So that being said, we love our people, not just because they're black, but regardless to the condition that they're in. We understand that the condition of our people, those that you may call incorrigible, those that the society calls incorrigible, which means beyond reform, those that society has given up on, our people, at the core of them, is good. Our people are righteous by nature. We've been made wicked by circumstances. And so we realize that that thug, that criminal, she's only acting like that in the absence of the knowledge of themselves. So when we see our people, we don't judge them for how they are acting or what they're doing. As I said of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he looks past our faults and he sees our need. So yes, anyone can come of our people, can come to Muhammad Mosque, not only Muhammad Mosque number 11 in beautiful Uptown Grove Hall, but whatever city you go to, you can come to the Nation of Islam and be received with love, and be received and be welcomed and be given that teaching that we have. We not, we're in these suits and whatnot, but don't get it twisted. We not bougie.
That's right.
We didn't fall from heaven.
Yes, sir.
We came up out of hell just like everybody else.
Yes, sir.
But we received a teaching that transformed our lives. And so we're taught a saying by the Prophet of Islam, the great Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. He said, a Muslim is not a Muslim until he wants for his brother what he wants for himself.
Wow.
And so if Islam transformed my life, what I look like rejecting anybody because of what condition in life they are. No, I don't care about what condition you in right now. Come on in, my brother. Come on in, my sister. And let me give you this word so that you can find out who you really are. And then when you know who you are, then you can just level up. Accept your own and be yourself. Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
And a lot of us have been brought up in Christianity, and we believe in like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and believe that Jesus will save us, and He will come down and He will save us, and He will love everyone. I've heard one of your lectures on the concepts of the concept and the reality, and can you just touch on that a little bit for me, for the audience?
Yes. To my beautiful Christian family, we love you, we honor you, we respect you. we believe what you believe, right? I can take that Bible. I could hear a preacher preaching a sermon. I can take the concept of Christianity. You mentioned the Trinity. That's a concept of Christianity. Most Muslims outside the Nation of Islam would frown on the concept of the Trinity and call it un-Islamic because one of the base principles of Islam is belief in one God.
Yes, sir.
And truthfully, that's the base principle of our religions.
Yes, sir.
So when the average Muslim is confronted with the concept of the Trinity, they reject it. But in the Nation of Islam, we are given root knowledge. So I can agree, and I believe in the concept of the Trinity.
Yes, sir.
I believe in what is taught in Christianity. We hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he says, I'm a Muslim, but I'm also a Christian.
Yes, sir. I've heard that.
And he said, I'm also a Jehovah's Witness.
Yes, sir.
I'm also, a Catholic. I'm also a Jew.
Yes.
I'm also, we can claim all of that, because when you claim God the Father,
Yes.
you go down to the root. And when you're dealing with the root, it allows you to deal with all the branches.
Yes, sir.
And so, no, we don't have a problem with the teaching, but what we have been given is an understanding. We've been given an understanding that allows us to harmonize those divergent thoughts, or what may appear to be divergent theological ideas. And I offer this to our people, in particular black people. We have to understand who has taught us what we believe. We didn't come to this country as Christians.
Yes, sir.
It was the Pope that issued what they call a papal bull that gave authority to Portugal and Spain and England and the European countries who were under the church, under the Catholic Church at the time. The Pope issued a decree allowing them to enslave what they called heathens, which was people that didn't believe in their God. So the black people who were enslaved, by virtue of that decree, were not Christians. Many of the black people that were brought here were in fact Muslims.
Yes.
And this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught Malcolm X, and Malcolm X mentioned that to Alex Haley when he was being interviewed for the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Yes.
He said that we were taught that our people came to this country, most of them, many of them were Muslims, and that's a historical fact.
Yes.
Alex Haley, after finishing with Malcolm and the autobiography of Malcolm, that thought was in his head. And so he went back and traced his roots.
Yes.
And that's where the movie Roots came from, the documentary, or the miniseries Roots came back. Alex Haley actually went back to Africa and traced his roots.
I see.
Kunta Kinte, let me say this point. Kunta Kinte was a descendant of Alex Haley.
Yes,
If you go back and watch the movie Roots, Kunta Kinte was a Muslim. Now, I remember watching Roots as a child, and I enjoyed the movie.
Yes.
But like I said earlier in the interview, I never heard Muslim or Islam. I never knew what that was.
Yes.
So the fact that he was a Muslim went right over my head. But now as a Muslim, when I went back and looked at the movie,
Yes, sir.
he was praying to Allah.
Yes, he was.
So I challenge our listening audience, go back and watch Roots again.
Okay.
Kunta Kinte was a Muslim, and we see his journey.
Great.
He was robbed of his name. They stripped him of the name Kunta Kinte, and they made him to take the name Toby.
Yes. Great
And they
point.
forbid him
Great point.
to practice the African religion,
Great point.
which was Islam. So we were stripped of our names, our language, our culture, and our religion. And then the very same ones that stripped us taught us and was the ones that gave us Christianity.
Minister, we're going to have to do a part two. We're going to have to do a part two.
Yes,
on this,
sir.
Because this is too deep for just a part one. Can I get a commitment from you at some point when your schedule's clear? You will come back and do a part two on the CD Storm Show.
Brother, I would be honored to
Yes,
come
sir.
back on your show and continue this conversation, because there's
correct.
so much.
Yes.
And I hope that, you know, what we shared today, that your listening audience
Yes.
finds to be beneficial.
Yes.
And if they would like to learn more
Yes, sir.
of the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad,
Yes.
I would like to cordially invite them to come and visit us at Muhammad Mosque number 11 in beautiful uptown Grove Hall, 10 Washington Street. Our meetings, our Sunday meetings is at 11 o'clock and the doors open at 10:30.
Yes. And I'm hearing about the food and I'm tasting it too. Well, what is about this mighty MGT?
Oh, the MGT is the class for the women and girls of the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
And they're taught there how to cook and other things. But the sisters prepare, and our sisters have been on point, as you can bear witness.
Yes.
Because we actually have our own food program where the Nation of Islam has thousands of acres of farm where we're producing our own food. And we also have an ABLE program and a staple goods program where we're getting everything from salmon, whiting fish, organic chicken, organic lamb. You know, we have our rice and our beans and our produce that's coming from our farm. So the sisters have been making a meal. So when you come to the mosque and you eat a meal, that's black from the farm to the table.
Yes,
and
sir.
it's all cooked under the guidance
Yes, sir.
of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from How to Eat to Live.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this edition to the CD Storm Show. But we're going to have this minister back. I promise you we will have him back as soon as we can. And I just want to thank Henry Parker for producing this show.
Yes.
And I just want to just shake my minister's hand.
It is an honor.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Anytime, let me know. We'll make the schedule happen, and
Yes,
we'll come
sir.
back and talk to your
Yes,
audience.
sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
That will do it.
Us to lead and teach us, and that one that we pay homage to is none other than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We thank Allah for leaving with us today, showing His love and His mercy, and that we are still on His mind, because He left with us today a champion. He left with us one that's on scene today, who I affectionately like to call the boldest, baddest black man on the planet. The hardest working, most consistent, most productive, most intelligent black man who's been doing this for over 60 years. The undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of freedom, justice, and equality, and that's none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. In their names, once again, I'd like to greet you in peace. Peace! Peace, peace to the gods! Peace to the earth! Peace to the righteous people of the planet Earth! How's everybody doing? I just want to say that it's such an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure for me to be here with y'all this evening, this afternoon. This is such a beautiful day. Let's give it up to the God, Allah of mathematics, for putting this together. One of the greatest black men we have in our community. Come on, show him your love, because we need to have this type of energy duplicated. Is that right? Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Huh? That's what I'm talking about. So, brothers and sisters, again, you know, I just want to say a few words. This is such a beautiful thing that we have to keep going. We have to duplicate. We know we're living in perilous times right now. We know what's going on all over the world. We know that killer cops are continuing to target black men and murdering us and getting away with impunity. Is that right? They're not only targeting black men, but they're killing black women and children. They're even targeting our elderly, and they're getting away with it. Because in truth, white supremacists have infiltrated the law enforcement community. And so this is why we are seeing what we're seeing in the world. And it's a bad thing, man. It was hard to see our brother get murdered on videotape, and to actually watch this man lose his life on tape while his girlfriend is sitting right next to him and his baby girl is sitting in the back seat. This is madness, man. We gotta stop the enemy from killing us. But listen, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us that we as black people, we are fighting a war on two fronts right now. We gotta stop the killer cops from killing us, but we also gotta stop us from killing us. Right. We gotta stop us from killing us, is that right? All Black Lives Matter, is that right? Black lives don't only matter when a white person takes it.
That's right.
We gotta learn to love each other, is that right?
That's right.
So I'm saying to all the shorties that are here, right?
Go ahead.
Love yourself. When you see another young black man, that's your brother.
That's right.
That's not your enemy, that's your brother. It don't matter if he's from a different project, from a different block, from a different street. We all people, we all family. We didn't really even choose what street we lived on.
No, we didn't.
We didn't choose the project we came in. We got subsidized housing most of the time.
Go ahead.
We just got where we was at on the list. Is that right?
That's right.
So why are we banging over that? No one understands shorties. Love yourself. You are more than a gangster.
That's right.
You more than a thug. You more than a pimp or a player. You definitely are not that dog or that N-word that we like to use.
That's right.
Don't refer to yourself as that. You are God. You was made in God's image. You are the original people. You are directly from God, and you are the real temple of God. That's not only for the shorties, not only for the young men, but for the young women as well. Young men, respect your young women. Your woman is not a bee. She is not a female dog. Huh? Y'all got quiet on me. Y'all don't want to be a witness to that. Huh? The black woman is the queen of civilization. Is that right? Our mandate is to protect our women. Is that right? So young men, honor your black woman, love your woman, and respect your woman. Never disrespect them. And never let anyone else disrespect them. Let me say this. We at that time right now where we got to stop watching someone brutalize our people, and all we can do is record it with our damn cell phones. We got to get beyond that now. We got to do more than just watch and record what someone is doing to our people. We got to step up and intervene and stop that madness. We got to say, oh, y'all got quiet. Don't get scared. We got to man up. Is that right? We can't be scared. We got to defend our community. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is calling for 10,000 fearless. 10,000 fearless. Because we got to get out in these streets and we got to stop us from killing us. But we also got to work to unify our people. And when we unify, then we'll stop the enemy from killing us. If we show unity and love among ourselves, then the enemy will think twice before he disrespects or violates one of us. But as long